Before we begin, I just want to let you guys know that behind the scenes, I've been dealing with a breakup of sorts. And I just want to say that if there is anyone out there that is dealing with a similar situation, just know that you're stronger than you think. You've got this and you're going to get through this. In my case, I'm telling you this because all you guys really see is me churning out weekly content, but not really behind the scenes, such as the personal things that I'm going through, which isn't always all fun and games. What you're going to be seeing over the next few weeks has been cultivated during one of the toughest times in my life personally. And with this move to a new place couldn't come sooner. I'm so happy to be showing you this new chapter, but just know that this transition hasn't been easy. Those that know me know what I have been going through, and it has deeply affected me, and this YouTube channel has been an outlet to keep me going, and I'm genuinely excited about what the future holds. Maybe one day I'll talk about this story, but for now, I want to keep creating quality content for you guys. And of course, to tell you about my decisions about wanting to move on from certain aspects of my life and what I'm looking to do for the future and the vision I have for this channel. You may have noticed that we are in a slight different environment than we normally would be. This is because I am now living in Valencia. I still have some content that occurred whilst I was living in Madrid, so you'll see some overlap over the next few weeks, but I wanted to create this video today to tell you what I have been dealing with, why I decided to make this move, where my YouTube content will be going for the future, and finally, some advice from my side if you're also thinking of doing a similar move. I'd firstly like to say that moving to Valencia has been a dream of mine for around 2 years now. Ever since I returned to Madrid from Malaga, it was in the back of my mind to escape Madrid once more. I was split between different places for my next move, and I was battling my own personal issues with justifications of the move, my day job, and also some mental health issues. Mental health is no joke, and if you're going through something, speak to a friend or a family member, because after all, we are all going through hard times at different rates. It's what makes us human, and there is always light at the end of the tunnel. I'd like to say a massive thanks to my parents for their support during this time, not just talking about the move, I mean the emotional support of all the things I have had to deal with recently, and to my biggest fan on YouTube, my gran, who always has something lovely to comment on my videos, even on some of the terrible videos I have created. She's still there to comment on the video with something positive. I'd also like to thank my previous landlady. I absolutely adored my flat in Madrid and couldn't have got through some of my tougher times without such an amazing home to come back to. Also, for all the friends I've made along the way, I will always treasure our memories. Sometimes you have to walk away from something comfortable to grow, and in this case, I'm excited for what the future holds. So what does the future hold? Well, if there was one thing I realized, the content I was creating in Madrid wasn't really resonating with my audience. I absolutely love creating travel content, and I started this YouTube channel with no idea on how to edit, how to talk to a camera, but with a passion to showcase some amazing places. Even with limited time, a day job, and limited funds, I had the urge for this YouTube passion project and a mission to showcase a fair, unbiased view of the places I visited. I realized that most of my audience were not traveling to Madrid. For the most part, it has been Northern Europeans looking to get away for a little bit. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to my US-based audience that seems to be growing. It wasn't my intended audience initially, but it's a pleasure to have you guys on board. So here we are in Valencia, a place I believe a lot of Brits, other Northern Europeans, and Americans would more likely visit. I realized that the coast in general offers what we are looking for, and so I'm planning to delve into the culture, food, the people, and who knows, maybe even the language here in Valencia. On a personal level, I'm also looking forward to having less severe winters, which will allow me to be outdoors a lot more, and best believe I'll be bringing my camera with me to bring you guys along on the adventure. There are so many possibilities I have for this move, so much creativity that I want to explore in addition to locations, and I'm excited to showcase this to you. The process of moving is a difficult one, and so I thought if there is one thing I can pull from this experience, it's to share my process with you and give you a few pointers. This advice is for Spain and of course course, maybe your final outcome will be vastly different from my own. But that doesn't mean you can't use my advice as a framework for wherever you end up. Firstly, do your research on where you wish to move to. In my case, I wanted a hybrid between the chilled life and amazing weather of Malaga, but the city vibes of Madrid. Valencia seemed to offer both those things. I also had friends that moved to Valencia from Malaga and Madrid, so I don't feel 100% isolated here. Once you've figured out the city, town, or region you wish to live, I'd use websites such as Reddit and also simply talking with experienced friends to see what people are saying about your chosen place. In my case, for example, I had started looking at Google Maps for different neighborhoods in Valencia and going to Google Street View and walking around. I realized that this was not giving me the full experience, but just an initial taste. I then sent messages to some friends who could give me their opinion on those regions. Sometimes the advice I received was not what I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear. There were regions I wanted to live in that I thought looked great, and it turns out they are not very nice areas or just didn't match the expectations that I was looking for. More of this in a minute. Once you have the general regions in mind, go visit the place. On this initial visit, you're not looking for housing. Simply book a weekend to visit, walk around the areas of interest, get a feel for the place and see if you can imagine yourself living there. Wait until you return home before fully reflecting on your experience. Sometimes it can take a few days to process everything you felt and saw when visiting. And in my case, it took a few visits to decide exactly where I wanted to be. Once you know exactly what area you want to be in, get yourself onto Idealista. Yes, there are other websites, but this one has the most traffic, and I'd recommend this for long-term rentals. As a side note, if you're looking for more short-term, maybe use Airbnb. However, you can also find short-term on Idealista, like a month or so. Now, this next bit of advice actually changed for me. I used to recommend to avoid agencies at all costs, as they charge an agency fee, usually of like 10% of the rent for 1 year, not including taxes. This overly complicated calculation comes out at like 1,452 euros for a flat you would pay 1,000 euros per month. So imagine the scene. You've paid 2 months deposit, 2,000 euros. Then you've paid the first month, 3,000 euros. And then a fee which you don't get back of 1,450 euros. So 4,450 euros before you've even set foot in your new accommodation. It's a joke. Now I know what you're thinking.
But Dave, as of June 2019, agencies cannot charge tenants an agency fee.
You would most definitely be correct. So these slimy agencies have changed the name from agency fee to service fee, and then charge for things that should not be charged for, or at least not at the amount they're requesting. That being said, there are some decent agencies out there who don't try and rip you off, and that's what happened in my case. So when you reach out to someone regarding a flat, the first thing you need to ask is,
hi, do you have an agency fee?
If they say yes, avoid them. If they say no, we have a service fee, avoid them. The agency should not be charging you any fee. It's against the law, but nothing is done about it, so just simply move on. Before you start to reach out to different properties, I'd recommend creating a spreadsheet, and for each column, list the characteristics you are personally looking for. In my case, for example, I wanted a flat with a certain budget in mind, in a particular area, preferably without furnishings. However, that didn't really work out in my case. More about that in a minute. A washing machine, a terrace, or outside space, air conditioning, and then I gave the overall property a rating out of 10. I also had a final column for notes, just for anything I wanted to mention. I would recommend contacting in Spanish as best you can, as this seems to make the process a lot easier. But I can understand that it can be difficult. Use Google Translate, and if they call you, explain that you do not speak Spanish by saying, lo siento, pero no hablo español. Unless of course you do, then tell them, hola, ¿qué tal? Okay, so let's say you've got some viewings booked in. Once again, in my case, I had to travel down to Valencia. I was blessed enough to have a friend allow me to stay at their place for a week. But otherwise, you need to book an Airbnb or hotel. I wouldn't recommend doing it for a day trip unless you are 99% sure that the flat you're going to view is one you'll be taking as this will not give you enough time to evaluate the area. Remember, you are not just moving to the flat, you are moving to the location. Have your list in mind and make sure to do your own videos and then share it with friends and family. They might spot something that you overlooked. For example, in my case, I remember one flat that I viewed. It was perfect. It was massive, ticked all the boxes. Then I realized there's no air conditioning, even though it was advertised as with air conditioning on the ad. I also noticed no fridge or washing machine. Another frustration for me. It would mean I would have to buy these things too, which considerably increases the overall price. Finally, before leaving, even though he said that there was no agency fee, he was explaining that there was a service fee and outlined all that was covered within the service fee. Frustrating for me was that most of the things he mentioned were not related to me. For example, support with visa, getting your national insurance card, and opening a bank account in Spain. I was quite annoyed at the time and felt like my time had been wasted. This pattern continued from agency to agency, so if you always experience this problem, you're not alone. Weirdly, I don't see many people discussing this when I was doing my research, as I obsessed over YouTube videos, Reddit posts, and maps, searching for the ideal place for me. In the end, I went with the flat I am sitting in right now. Unfortunately, it is fully furnished, but this is a learning lesson for not just myself, but for you guys too. You might have your criteria of exactly what you're looking for, but sometimes you have to be realistic about what is actually attainable. In my case, trying to find an unfurnished flat in this region of the city just felt like an impossibility, and so I had to compromise, and I recommend you guys to consider this too when searching. Be flexible when it comes to selecting your attributes. When you find the perfect flat, or as perfect as could be for you, there is a bunch of documents they request from you. These are your nominas, which are your last 3 pay slips, your job contract, your passport, and a copy of your passport printed, vida laboral, which can be found on the government website and simply is a breakdown of how much time you have spent working in Spain, your NIE or NIE card, and a copy of your NIE card. And they might even request your tax of the previous year, again found on the government website. Remember to ask for recibo de reserva, which is the reservation receipt, before you pay any deposit. That document should always be signed by your new landlord before you transfer anything. This is really important because if you transfer money and then for whatever reason the flat isn't as you saw it or the agency doesn't turn up, then you will not have a contract to fall back on. Is it perfectly safe with this method? No, but it's better than nothing. Finally, make sure to inform your landlord of your intention to leave within 30 days and start searching for removal companies to move your things. If you need recommendations on companies to use, let me know and I can let you know in the comments. And that's it. You have now successfully moved. Hopefully this bit of advice and insight into what I have been dealing with has helped you. And once again, I'm ridiculously excited for what is to come on this YouTube channel. For the first time in a very long time, I feel excited about life and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you guys. Thanks for watching this week's video and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.